Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Wicked, Chapter 6 of the Uprisings part. An ambassador from the Glickus, darling, Nessarose said when Elphaba demanded a meeting. Really, I can't turn her away. She's come to discuss mutual defense pacts and the events that the Glickus succeeds next. She thinks there are agents trailing her family and she needs to leave on the return journey tonight. But we'll dine together, just like old times, you, me, and my server. Elphaba had no choice but to while away another afternoon. She located Frex and persuaded him to go for a stroll out beyond the ornamental ponds and pristine lawns. When the woods came up to the back edge of Colwyn grounds, he walked so stiffly, so slowly. It was torture. She was a strider, but she kept herself in check. "How do you find your sister?" he asked. "After all these years, much change?" "She was always confident in her way," Elphie said reservedly. "I never thought so. I don't now," Frex said, "but I think it was a good act and it's gotten better." "What really did you ask me to come here for, Papa?" Elphaba said. "I haven't had much time, you know. You must be frank." "You would make a smarter eminence than Nessie," he said, "and it's your birthright. You know, I know the strict rules of title inheritance weren't important to your mother. I just think the people of Munchkin Land would do better with you at the helm. Nessa is too much devout, if such a thing exists. Too devout to be central figure in public life anyway." "This may be the only respect in which I take after my mother," Elphaba said, "but after an inherited position of no interest to me, and it carries no weight at all that I am the rightful eminence. I've long ago abdicated my position in the family in that respect. Nessarose has every right to abdicate hers, that shall be located to stand in, or better yet, the foolish custom can be abolished, and let the Munchkinlanders govern themselves to death. Nobody ever suggested a leader isn't as much as a scapegoat as a lowly peon," said Frex. "Anyway, it's possible, but I'm talking about leadership, not about rank and privilege. I'm talking about the nature of the times we live in, and the job that needs to be done. Fabala, you were always the more capable sibling. Shell is madcap cut up, currently playing secret agent. And Nessie is a bruised little girl." "Oh, please," she said in disgust. "And there isn't time to get over that." "She hasn't," he said, hurt. "Do you see her wrapped up in some lover's arms? Do you see her bearing her own children, engaging life in a way that makes sense? She's behind, and she hides behind her devotion the way a terrorist hides behind his ideas." He saw her flinch at this and pause. "I have known terrorists capable of love," she said evenly, "and I have known good mounts, unmarried and childless, doing charity for stricken people. Have you known Nessa as an adult to bond with anyone other than the unnamed god?" "You're one to talk," she said. "You had your own wife and children, but they came lower on the list of priorities than quadlings waiting to be converted." "I did what had to be done," he said rigidly. "I won't be lectured by my daughter." "Well, I won't be lectured by you about my everlasting duties to Nessie. I gave her my childhood. I got her going at shiz. She's made her life the way she wants it, and she still has choice and free will even now. And so do subjects who can dispose her and cut off the head if her prayers get in their way." "She is a rather powerful woman," Frex said sadly. Elphie glanced sideways at him. For the first time she saw him as feckless. The kind of the old man that Urgi, if he survived, would grow up to be. Constantly pawing at the edge of events, reacting instead of acting, mourning the past and future instead of stirring up the present. "How did she get to be so powerful?" she asked, trying to be kind. "She had two good parents." He didn't answer this. They walked away and came out of the woods along the edge of a cornfield. A couple of farmhands were repairing a fence and erecting a scarecrow. "Afternoon, Brother Fretzbar," they said, doffing their caps. They looked like a little askins at Elphaba. When she and her father had continued out of earshot, she said, "They were having a little talisman or something on their tunics, don't you see? It looked like a little straw dolly or something." "Oh, yes, the straw man, he sighed. Another pagan custom that almost gone underground. And that was revived during the Great Drought. Ignorant field workers wear straw man as a charm against the pest of crops. Drought, crows, insect rot. Once upon a time, there was a tradition of human sacrifice. It's about it. He paused to catch his breath, then wipe his face. Our family friend, Turtleheart the Quadling, he was butchered right here in Colwyn Grounds on the day that Nessarose was born. An itinerant dwarf and a huge tick-tock entering clock were making that circuit that year and provided a conduit for the ugliest of human inclination. Arrived here just in time for Turtleheart to be nabbed. I've never forgiven myself for not seeing what was about to happen, but your mother was in labor, and we had been run out of town. I wasn't thinking clearly about all the way things. Elphaba had heard this all before. Even so, you were in love with him, she said to make it easier. We both were. We shared him, said Frex. Your mother and I did. It was a lifetime ago, and I don't know why anymore. I don't think I knew why then. I haven't loved anyone else since your mother died, except, of course, my children. What a brutal history of sacrifices, she said. I was just talking to a cow who expects to be a blood victim. Is that possible? The more civilized we become, the more horrendous our entertainment, said Frex. And it'll change, and it'll never change, will it? I remember the etymology of the word Oz, at least as proposed as a lecture by our head, Madame Marble. She said that academics were inclined to locate the root of the term, the cognate ooze, which carried frights of meaning about growth, power, generation. Even ooze, with its constant noun virus, is thought to belong to the same general family. The older I get, the more I create the derivation will leave. And yet, the poet of the Iliad calls it the land of green abandon, the land of endless leaf. Poets are just responsible for empire building as any other professional hacks. Sometimes I would give anything to get away from here, but I dread the thought of a trip across the deadly sands. It's only a legend, said Elfie. Papa, you taught me the sands are no more deadly than the fields. That reminds me of the other theory. That Oz is related to the word oasis. Why the nomadic peoples of the north thought of Gilligan, time beyond thinking when Oz was discovered and settled. Now look, Papa, you needn't go far. The Vinkus is nearly another country. Why don't you come back with me? I would love to, honey, he said, but how could I leave Nessarose? I never could, even if she's Turtleheart's daughter and not yours, she said stingingly because stung. Especially that, he answered. And Elphaba saw that by not knowing sure if Nessarose had been fathered by herself or by Turtleheart, Frex had decided in some substantial way that she was the daughter of them both. Nessarose was the proof of their brief union. Theirs, obviously, and Melena's as well. It didn't matter how crippled Nessarose was, she would always be more than Elphaba, always. She would always mean more. Elphaba and Nessarose sat in Nessa's bedchamber. A handmaid served some soup made of cow stomach. Ugh. Elfie, not normally squeamish, couldn't eat it. The maid neatly spooned tiny portions into Nessie's mouth. I'm not going to beat around the bush, Nessarose says. I'd like to join me here as a sister-at-arms, to lead my circle of advisors, and to manage in my absence if I could travel. I have no love of Munchkin Land from what I've seen so far, said Elphaba. The people are cruel and impressed by charades. The pomp of this place is oppressive, and I do believe you're sitting on a powder keg. All the more reason you should help me, said Nessarose. Weren't we raised up to expect a life of service? Your shoes have made you strong, said Elfie. I don't know shoes could do that. I don't think you need me. Don't lose those shoes, she thought. Your shoes gave you a natural balance. You look like a serpent standing on its tail. Sure you remember them from before? Yes, but I hear Glinda amplified them with a magic spell or something. Oh, that Glinda, what a card. Nessie swallowed hard and smiled. Well, you can always our shoes, my dear, over my dead body. I'll read my will and leave them to you. Though what they would do for you, I can hardly imagine. They didn't grow me new arms. Perhaps enchanted shoes won't change the color of your skin, will make you more enticing enough that you won't matter. I'm already too old to be that enticing. Why, you're still in the prime of life, and so am I, said Nessarose, laughing. Tell me you've got some romancing in a Vinkus yurt or tent or teepee or whatever it is they call home. Come on. I've been wondering something ever since I saw you do that spell this morning, Elphaba said. The spell over the axe. Oh, right. Small potatoes, that one. Do you remember by any chance, remember that time in Shiz when Madame Morrible said she was putting us under a spell, and that we couldn't talk to each other about it? Go on, sounds familiar. She was always creepy, wasn't she? A master of tyranny. She said she had chosen us, me, you, and Glinda, to be adepts, to be agents of someone quite high up, to be sorceresses, and I don't know, secret accomplices. She promised we'd be highly placed and effectual. She made us think we could never discuss it with one another. Oh, I remember. Oh, yes, that. I do remember. What a witch she was. Well, do you think there was any truth to that? Do you think she had the power to bind us in silence, to make us powerful sorceresses? She had the power to scare us out of our wits, but we were young and very stupid, as I remember. I had the feeling at the time she was in collusion with the wizard, and that she had ordered that TikTok thing, Grammatic, the name just comes back to me. Isn't memory odd like that? To kill Dr. Dillman. You saw fiends and knives behind every chair. You always did. Nessarose said, I don't think Madame Morrible had any real power. She was a manipulative woman, but her power was very limited. In our naivete, we saw her as a villain. She was merely full of self-importance. I wonder, I tried to say something about it afterward. Didn't we all faint? We were innocent and horribly suggestible, Elfie. And Glinda's gone on to marry money, as Madame Morrible said. Is Sir Chuffrey still alive? If you can call it that, yes. And Glinda's a sorceress. There's no questioning that. But Madame Morrible were merely predicted things. She saw her talents, as an educator could be expected to do, and advised us on how to make the most of them. What's so surprising about that? She tried to seduce us into a secret service for an unknown master. I'm not inventing this, Nessie. She knew how to get to you, obviously, by appealing to your sense of conspiracy. I don't remember such alluring nonsense. Elphaba fell silent. Perhaps Nessie was right. And yet, here they were a dozen years later, two witches in a manner of speaking, and Glinda a sorceress for the public good. Isn't it enough to make Elfie go back to Kiamiko and burn that grimoire? And burn the room too, for that matter. She always reminded Glinda of a carp, said Nessarose. Can you really be scared of fish after all these years? I saw in a book once a drawing of a lake monster or a sea monsters, if you believe in oceans, said Elfie. Wait, are there no oceans by Oz? I mean, anyway, I may not be sure if monsters exist, but I'd rather live my life in doubt than be persuaded by a real experience of one. You said the same thing about the unnamed god once, said Nessarose quietly. Oh, now please don't start that. A soul is too valuable to ignore, Elfie. Well, isn't it good that I don't have one then? So there's no muss, no fuss. You have a soul. Everyone does. How about the cow you bartered for today and the sheep? I'm not talking about lower orders. That sort of talk offends me, Nessie. I freed those animals today, you know. Nessarose shrugs. You have some rights in Colin Ground, so I'm not going to walk around prohibiting your little pet missions. They say some pretty horrible things about how animals are treated around here. I thought it was the Emerald City and Gillikin only. I somehow guessed Munchenland, being more rural, would have more common sense. You know, said Nessie, indicating that the maid should wipe her mouth with a napkin. Once at a prayer service, I met a soldier. He had lost a limb in a campaign against some restless quadling. He said every morning he slapped the stump where his arm used to be. He got the blood ringing, and after a few minutes there was a tingling sensation, and he developed a kind of a phantom limb. not all at once and not in physical form. What he gained was a sense of what it felt like. It would grow to the elbow, and his memory, his bodily memory of limbs in three-dimensional space, would extend eventually all the way down to the fingers. Once his phantom limb was in place mentally, that is, he could face the day as a crippled man. Furthermore, he had better physical balance. Elphaba could, feeling more and more like a real witch, looked at her sister, waiting for the punch. I tried it for a while, for months in fact. I had Nanny massage my little knobs here. After much hard work on poor Nanny's part, I began to develop just the beginning of a sense of what it would be like to have arms. It never went very far until Glinda dazzled like these shoes. Now, I don't know why. Maybe they're too high height and my circulation is complaining. After an hour on my feet, I have phantom arms. Every time in my life, I can't quite feel the feel of fingers. Phantom limbs, said Elphie. Well, I'm pleased for you. You know, if you slapped yourself around, spiritually speaking, said Nessarose, you might develop a phantom soul or something like felt like one. It's like a good internal guide, a soul. I suspect you might even recognize it's not a phantom at all. It's a real one. That'll do, Nessie, said Elphaba. I don't care to discuss my spiritual trials with you. Why don't you stay here with me then? Join my staff and we can have you baptized, said Nessarose warmly. Water is profoundly painful to me, as you know, and I won't discuss it again. I can't pledge allegiance to anything unnamed. It's a sham. You're condemning yourself to a life of sadness. Nessarose says, well, that I'm already familiar with. Or at least there's nothing to jump out and surprise me. Elphie threw down her napkin. I can't stay here, Nessie. I can't help you out. I have responsibilities of my own back at the Vinkus, which you have shown precious little interest in finding out about. All right, I have a revolution has occurred, and once you're a new prime minister or something, you sure have the right to be distracted if anything one does. Either accept the burden of leadership or turn it down, but either way, make sure it's your choice on the matter and not accidental history, a martyrdom by default. I worry about you, but I can't stay here and beat your dog's body. I've been clumsy and outspoken. Don't expect me to remember how to be sisterly in a short while. You've had Shell to practice on all these years, Elphaba said sternly. Just like that, you're getting up and going? Nessarose said, too, in her sinuous, unsettling way she had. After 12 years of separation, you've had 3-4 days of reunion, and that's that? Keep yourself well, Elphie said, and kissed her sister on both cheeks. I know you'll be a good eminence for as long as you want to be. I shall pray for your soul, promised Nessarose. I shall wait for your shoes, Elphie answered. On your way out, Elphaba thought about going to say goodbye to her father and then decided against it. She had said to him everything that she could bring herself to say. They had ganged up on her in the claustrophobic, loving way of families, and she wanted no more of it. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.